Hi, welcome to the Fountain of Israel Bible Studies program. And peace to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And welcome to this special presentation of the Fountain of Israel. Today and this month, all month long, every week, we will be going into the Bible and examining Black History Month from the Bible. Now, I'm happy and I'm sad at the same time. The reason I'm happy is because I'm able to expound some information, some education that hopefully will enlighten you and educate you. I'm sad because it's necessary to do so, that we've all been deceived. We were not unawares. Or in fact, when we do learn anything about Black History Month, it usually starts from the slave ships. But no one ever wonders what happened before that. What happened before the slave ships? What were we doing as a people? Well, this 4-part series will explain just that. Because every time someone gets into it, we get the same characters. We get our Malcolm X, we get our Harriet Tubmans, we get our Martin Luther Kings. We get the same people every time. And they go right from the shores of America. They start right from the shores. They start from the boat. I would submit to you that we're starting from the wrong boat. Let's go back even further than the American shores and the slave ships. Let's go all the way back into Noah's boat. And then we will start our history from there. Now, before we get started, let me encourage you to have your Bible, pen, paper, to write down the sources, write down the scriptures, write down everything I get it, to study, to show yourself approved, and to understand where I'm getting the information from. We will go from the Bible, we'll go from historical texts, from encyclopedias to dictionaries. We will go and examine this thoroughly, so you will be thoroughly convinced of where your heritage is from. Whether you are Black or whether you're Latino, you will know where you are from, where your history began as a people. So, with that, let's start in Genesis, and we'll begin at the Table of Nations. Now, before we do this, let's go to Genesis 10, and we will start at verse 1. Genesis 10 in verse 1, and then we will go to the PowerPoint. But let's start first, Genesis 10. And this is commonly referred to as the Table of Nations. Genesis 10, verse 1. And when you get there, reader, go ahead and proceed.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood.
Okay, now, Noah's 3 sons, let me emphasize, Noah's 3 sons were in fact Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And we'll talk about all 3 of the sons, but we will focus primarily, we will begin with Ham. We'll say very little about Japheth. And we will focus in and zero in on Shem and his lineage. Go ahead, verse 2.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog.
Okay.
And Madai, and
Javan,
and Tubal, and Meshish, and Tyrus.
Okay. Verse 3. Now, before you go there, now we said the sons of Japheth. We're talking about Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. Now, some of the names, obviously, the Lord give people names and not necessarily after a country. So we come out of things like Magog and Madai. We talk about Russians. Now, Japheth are the sons, and Japheth means fair or white. So the Gentiles, or what we call European or white people, they come from Japheth. These are where these come from. Now let's go to verse 3.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah.
Okay. And verse 4.
And the sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And let's go verse 5 and 6.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands.
This is where the Gentiles come from. Gentiles come from Japheth, and the Bible just told you that. These are the Gentiles. Japheth, Russian, German, if you're Russian, European, German, Italian, all these are Gentiles. They come from Japheth. In fact, that's where all the nations come from, those 3 sons. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. All the nations on the planet right now come from one of those 3 sons of Noah. Okay, where were we? Verse 5? No, you read verse 5. Read verse 6.
And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Phut,
Uh-huh.
and Canaan.
And Canaan. Okay, now we will skip on over to verse 20, but let me emphasize real quick. The sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. Now, we don't use these words anymore, but these are Libya and Egypt. And you'll see this as we go to the PowerPoint here. But they use different names of these sons. Let's scoot on down over to verse 20. Verse 20. Let's look at this a little bit more, and then we'll go to the PowerPoint here. Verse 20. Go ahead and read, brother.
These are the sons of Ham.
Uh-huh.
After their families,
Mm-hmm.
after their tongues,
Mm-hmm.
in their countries,
Mm-hmm.
and in their nations.
Okay, go ahead.
Unto Shem,
Mm-hmm.
also the father of all the children of Eber,
Okay.
and the brother of Japheth,
Uh-huh.
and the elder, even
Okay.
to him were children born.
Okay, now we will skip on down to verse 31. Let's go to 31. Verse 31, and when you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
These are the sons of Shem,
Mm-hmm.
after their families,
Mhm.
and their tongues,
Okay.
and their lands,
Mm-hmm.
after their nations.
Okay, great. Now, let's finish up at verse 32.
These are the families of the sons of Noah,
Mm-hmm.
after their generations and their nations,
Mhm.
and by these were the nations divided to the earth after the flood.
This is where everyone came from, brothers and sisters. Everyone came from one of these three sons. And we'll go to Psalms 105. But everyone came from one of these three sons. Let's go over to Psalm 105 and let's take a look at this. Psalms 105. Because if you did not come from one of these three sons, you did not exist. You do not exist. Only 8 people survived after the flood. Now, Japheth, like I said, means fair. And that's where we get Europeans, or what we would say white people. Shem means dusky. And you'll notice from Shem, the skin tones will range from brown to a very light brown to a very bright kind. They have the shades. They have different variations of brown. Okay? While Ham, we'll read that definition momentarily. But let's first go to Psalm 105. Psalm 105. And when you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
Verse 17?
You're absolutely right. Let's take down Psalm 105, verse 17. Verse 17, you get there, brother? Go ahead and read.
He sent a man before him,
Mm-hmm.
even Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
who was sold for a servant.
Sold for a servant. Okay, so Joseph was sold. Now, Joseph was sold into slavery. That's what this psalm is speaking of. He was sold into slavery. Okay, skip down to verse 23. Verse 23.
Israel also came into Egypt,
Uh-huh.
and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
In the land of Ham. See, Egypt and Ham is the same thing. The land of Ham, Egypt, Mizraim, Egypt, it's all the same thing. Okay? Verse 24.
And he increased his people greatly,
Mhm.
and made them stronger than their enemies.
Go ahead.
He turned their heart to hate
Mhm.
his people, to deal subtility with his servants.
Yeah, they served hard bondage there. 26.
He sent Moses, his servant,
Mhm.
and Aaron, who he had chosen.
Okay, so the Egyptians, they dealt with the Hebrews roughly. Very, very, very rough. And we'll examine that. 27.
They shewed his signs among them,
Uh-huh.
and wonders in the land of Ham.
In the land of Ham. Now let's take a look at this. Now we're going to go to Genesis 42. But we're going to look at the definition of Ham. The Compact Bible. The definition of Ham. Let's go back to the new Genesis 42. And we will look at the definition of Ham first. And we will get our definition from Zattervan Compact Bible Dictionary. The Zattervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, and this is what it says for Ham. Zondervan's, this is what it says for Ham. Go ahead.
The youngest son of Noah,
Mm-hmm.
born probably about 96 years before the flood,
Okay.
and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood.
Okay.
He became the progenitor,
Okay. He became the progenitor of.
the dark races,
Okay.
not the Negroes,
Not the Negroes. I hope you notice this. But whom?
but the Egyptians,
Uh-huh.
Ethiopians,
Okay.
Libyans, and Canaanites.
And Canaanites. That's who he is. He is the father, progenitor, father of the dark races, but not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Okay, and today we call them Mizraim, which is Egypt, and we call them Put, Ethiopians, things of that nature. Now, I have two other definitions of this. Under the New Standard Encyclopedia, Volume 4, it says this: Ham, the third son of Noah, according to the tradition. Ham had sons too, but I will skip down. Now, they're known as a Hamitic group, and more important are the Barbers and Egyptians. Other tribes are so intermixed with Negro blood, it's difficult to say whether they are white or Negroid. However, widespread the custom, so it doesn't matter. However widespread the custom, it is not correct to speak of a Negro as a son of Ham, because they did not come from Ham, although they look very, very similar. Very similar. I'll give you one other. The New Compact Bible Dictionary says this of Ham. New Compact Bible Dictionary. It says, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably 96 years before the flood, one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races. And again, it says not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So we've just examined this from different sources. And you say, well, they obviously knew something. Because why would they do that? Why would they say he's the father of the dark-skinned races and then exclude what we call the American Negro? Because they knew something, because that is true. Ham is not the father of the Negro. They come from a different parent. That is Shem, and we will examine that. We're going to go to Genesis 42. Now, let's look at a couple things. Let's kill the lights and look at our projector. Let's kill the lights and look at our projector real quick. And I want to show you a couple of things here. These are the sons that we were talking about. We were talking about Noah, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. Now, we're not going to get into all these names. Just understand some of the names that were covered. You guys saw Gomer. We heard the reader read Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus. We also read Ashkenaz. Okay, Ashkenaz. All right, now, of Ham, we hear Cush, Miriam, Canaan, Put. We understand those. Now, one of the first great pharaohs, first conquerors of the entire known world was Nimrod. Nimrod was one of the first conquerors of the known world, a black Egyptian. Okay? Now, also, we will spend a lot of time on Shem, and we'll drop all the way down to Abraham, or Abram, which we changed to Abraham, who had Isaac and Jacob and then the 12 tribes. We'll get into that. Now, let's show you a few images here to make the point. Now, you heard some of the names we mentioned. We mentioned Put, Lud, we mentioned Mizraim, Egypt's here, we mentioned Cush. We mentioned some of these names. We mentioned Javan, and we mentioned Tubal, Tyrus, Gomer. See, look, it's all these are in the European nation. Look at where they settled here. Okay? So we're going to look at this. Arphaxad, which is the grandfather of Abram. So we're looking at some of these things here. We'll examine some of these things. Now we're talking about Egyptians. This is what the Egyptians look like, brothers and sisters. This is on the wall in Egypt, in the wall or in the museums over there. This is what they see. These are the images that are there now. Okay? This is normal. This is what the Egyptians look like. People are fooled because they see something currently and they think it's always been that way. Not true. This is what ancient Egyptians look like. This again is on the walls of the pyramids. Ancient Egyptians. Okay? Notice the skin tone. Ancient Egyptians. This is another one. Obviously, it's return to glory.org, where we get this from Dr. Joel Freeman, but this is an Egyptian statue. I'm sure you notice the skin color, you notice the nose. These are Egyptians. This is an Egyptian statue. Just letting you understand what we're dealing with here. Again, this is a depiction of the Egyptians that look exactly like what we would call the American Negro today or black person today. Looks exactly like them. Okay, now we all remember this is a bust of the Egyptian Nefertiti. Now you remember Michael Jackson's video of Remember the Time. Then they cast Iman, who is an Ethiopian model. But if you look at it, I believe they got it spot on. That's an actual buff of Nefertiti. Spot on. Okay, this is Pharaoh. This is a picture of Pharaoh Seti, the actual Pharaoh. Spot on depictions of these people. That's a bust of Pharaoh. Notice the lips. Notice the nose. These are Egyptians. Actual Egyptians. Even history has the evidence. Obviously, this is just a picture, but National Geographic, they understand that the Egyptians look like this. These are Egyptians. That's Imhotep III in 1350 BC. Notice the lips. Notice the nose, the ears. Notice the features. Now, this is where we're going to get into the meat of the lesson. Notice the Egyptians' slaves looked exactly like them. Notice the skin tone. Notice these are Hebrews. Notice the various shades that I mentioned to you. Very, very dark Hebrew here. Here's a middle brown Hebrew. Here's a light colored, light complexion Hebrew. Okay? They ran the gamut, but they do look very similar. Notice that. Now, before we get into that, we're going to take a look at Genesis 42. Genesis 42, and let's look at verse 1. Genesis 42 and verse 1. When you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt.
Okay, this is when the whole land was going into a famine, and they need to figure out what they're going to do to eat so that they don't die. Go ahead, verse 2.
Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die.
Go ahead.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt.
Okay.
But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him.
Okay, now he said, just maybe, peradventure maybe, or perhaps, Jacob sent not his brethren. For he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. He doesn't want something to happen to Benjamin. Benjamin is one of the young sons. Verse 5.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came from their famine was in the land of Canaan.
Okay, so they were starving, so they wanted to try to prevent this. Now Joseph was already in Pharaoh's house, and he had already became the viceroy of Pharaoh's land. He was the second in command of all of Pharaoh's house. Go ahead, verse 6.
And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth.
So they bowed down in reverence because they're hungry. They're coming to ask for some food. They are very hungry. Go ahead, verse 7.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food.
See, so that's why they came over there. So you have to understand, this has been after they sold Joseph. This has been about 20 years later by the time. So they did not recognize him. He did not look at. Again, Egyptians typically had very smooth faces. They didn't have a whole lot of facial hair. So even when a Hebrew was working in the court of an Egyptian, they would have them presentable. So they'd be very clean shaven. That's why Hebrews in the Bible said, okay, don't shave your beard and things like that. But in Egyptian, they very smooth face, very, very smooth face most of the time. So they did not recognize him. Plus, it's been 20 years since they had betrayed him and sold him. And they definitely did not go there expecting that their brother, who they sold into slavery, would be the viceroy, would be the second in command of all of Egypt. Verse 8.
And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him.
Did not recognize him. Skip down to verse 23, brother. Verse 23.
And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter.
See, so at the time, go ahead, you know what? So at the time, he was speaking with them through an interpreter. He knew Hebrew, but he was, whatever the Egyptian tongue at that time, he was speaking in that tongue. Go ahead and turn the lights on. Go ahead and turn the lights on real quick. He was speaking in that particular tongue. So what happened was he was just speaking with them. He recognized them. You know, he was kind of letting them suffer in a way. He didn't want to let on that he knew exactly who they were. But the reason they didn't understand is because earlier in the chapters when you read that he had a dream, and that dream, in the interpretation of that dream, was that they were going to serve him, that they were going to have to bow before him. And this is coming true in this particular passage. Where are we on 23? You read that? And he said, and they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. So we have to understand that. Now let's go to Exodus 2. Exodus 2. And we will pick it up at verse 15. Exodus 2 and verse 15. So now we're off the story of Joseph. I just want to get you to understand that they look very, very similar. Okay? Exodus 2, we're going to move on over to Moses. Now Moses grew up in the Pharaoh's home. Now understand, we know what the Pharaoh looked like. We know that they are a dark-skinned race. We know that. Which means Moses had to be dark-skinned as well. Why? Because he grew up in the Pharaoh's house, and the Pharaoh did not know that he was actually a Hebrew. So he had to be dark-skinned just like they were. So Exodus 2 and 15. Exodus 2 and 15. When you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses.
Okay.
But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh.
Okay, let me stop right there. Now, what he had heard was that Moses had killed an Egyptian. He killed an Egyptian. So he thought he was being portrayed and that type of thing. But go ahead. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and what? And
dwelt in the land of Midian.
Okay.
And he sat down by a well.
Go ahead.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came out and drew water, and filled the troughs to water with their father's flock.
Okay, go ahead.
And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock.
Okay, and what else?
And when they came to rule their father, he said, How is it that ye are come so soon today?
Yes, he basically asked him, how did you finish so fast? You know, that was kind of quick when you watered the flock and everything. You completed that a little too fast. Go ahead, 19.
And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds.
Now, we just read Moses. Now, you know that Moses is a Hebrew, but they said an Egyptian helped us. An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds. And also, go ahead.
And also drew water enough for us and watered the flock.
And watered the flock. So we have to understand, Pharaoh wanted to kill Moses because obviously he killed an Egyptian and found out Moses is a Hebrew, and now he was after him at that point in time. But these people, when Moses came and helped them, they mistaken him for an Egyptian. So let's go to Exodus 4. Exodus 4, we need to look at a couple of things. Exodus 4, and this is when the Lord is starting to call Moses and say, Moses, I'm going to use you, you're going to work for me kind of thing. Exodus 4, and let's pick it up at verse 1. Exodus 4 and verse 1. When you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. For they will say, The Lord hath not appeared unto thee.
Okay, go ahead. They said, well, we're not going to... Moses was telling the Lord they won't believe me. Because they don't think that you're actually talking to me, Lord. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thy hand?
Okay.
And he said, A rod.
Okay.
And he said, Cast it on the ground. As he cast it on the ground, it became a serpent.
Okay, this is the first miracle that the Lord performed with Moses. Go ahead.
Moses fled from before it.
He scared him. Scared him out of his mind. Scared him out of his mind. He threw the staff to the ground. It turned to a snake. Freaked Moses out. Go ahead, verse 4.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Put forth thy hand, and take it by the tail.
Put forth your hand, grab it, and take it by the tail.
And he put it forth his hand, and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand.
He picked up the snake by the tail, and it became a rod again that he had before. That was the first miracle that the Lord did unto Moses. Verse 5.
That they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee.
Yeah, that I spoke to you, because God didn't deal with just anybody. He dealt with certain people. And so in this particular case, he was saying, look, I did this so that they will understand when you go to talk to them, they will understand that I sent you, that I appeared to you, that I talked to you, Moses. Okay, verse 6.
And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thy hand into thy bosom.
Put your hand into your bosom, into your chest. And what?
And he put his hand into his bosom.
And he put his hand into his bosom.
And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow.
Leprous as snow, or white as snow. And let me just go ahead and say one other thing. And before we kill the lights, I wanted to say one other thing. There are two types of leprosy in the Bible. Okay? The first type of leprosy is like vitiligo. It is a skin disorder. It turns a dark-skinned person very, very, very white. That's what happens. The other one is open sores and pus and wounds that will not close. And it gets infected and it emits a strong odor. Two different types of leprosy. And the Bible talks about both types of leprosy. So we have to understand that. He said, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Now, what I want to do real quick, we're going to read verse 7. So we're going to look at it on both ends. Verse 7 of the same verse. Verse 7. Now, when he put it in, took it out, behold, it was leopard as snow, or it was white as snow. Verse 7.
Verse 7?
Verse 7.
Chapter 4, right?
Correct.
All right. 1 second. Moved ahead.
Let's see. Exodus 4 and verse
Gotcha.
7.
And he said, put thy hand into the bosom again.
Back into your chest or in your bosom. Go ahead.
And he put his hand into the bosom again. And he plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh.
As his other flesh. Now, kill the lights and we're going to take a look at this. This is the miracle that we're talking about. This is the miracle that we are referring to. This is the miracle that was missed in the movie. If you saw the movie with Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments, obviously it wouldn't have gone well because Charlton Heston, obviously being a Gentile, it wouldn't have gone well. So this is the miracle. They did the staff and the staff or the rod and the snake. They did that one, but they skipped this one because a dark-skinned Hebrew, a black Hebrew, put his hand in his chest and it became leprous. Or white as snow. It became white as snow. And then he said in verse 7, as the reader just stated, and he said, put thy hand into thy bosom again. So put it back into your chest. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was as his other flesh. So at this point, it came back as his other flesh. So we're going to look at some of this real quick. Now, that was that second miracle that the Lord performed with Moses. Now let's look at a few pics of Hebrews. Let's see what the Hebrews look like. The ancient Hebrews. Let's see what they look like. This is a depiction of the ancient Hebrews. These are the ancient Hebrews. All of these are Hebrews. All of these are Hebrews. These are the various shades of brown that the Hebrews were. Notice beards. Notice afros. These are the various shades of Hebrews. This is statue of Hebrew. Babylonian captivity. Notice the hair texture. Lips, nose. What other race people do you know have this hair texture? More Hebrews, more slaves. More slaves here. These are the Israelites of the book. More pictures. These are the Hebrews. Notice the various shades, from dark to brown, even some light. I need not explain this. This needs no explanation. Another picture of the Hebrews. Come right on in. So we have another picture of the Hebrews. Notice the statue, the texture of hair. And we have a comparison pic of someone in modern day. Pretty spot on. Pretty spot on of the Hebrews. These are Hebrews that are in Babylonian captivity. I want you to notice the hair texture. Notice the beard. These are the Hebrews in Babylonian captivity. Also another picture of Hebrews. Notice the hair. Notice the lips. Notice the nose. More pictures of Hebrews on the cave walls. This is the Hebrew slavery. Notice the beards, the hair, skin tone. Actual pictures of Hebrews on the cave walls. Okay, we're going to look at another depiction of this. Now, a lot of people say, well, the color, well, does the Bible, turn the lights back on for me? Lights back on. Let's go to Job 30:30. A lot of people say, well, does the Bible really talk about color? Well, it depends on your version of the Bible. You need a King James version because other versions omit certain words. So you will need a King James version if you're going to get these scriptures. So let's go to Job. And we're going to look at a few things. Let's go to Job 30:30. Job 30, verse 30. We're just going to read one verse. One verse. Job 30, verse 30. When you get there, brother, let the Bible speak.
My skin is black upon me.
Okay, what else?
And my bones are burned with heat.
And my bones are burned with heat. He said, my skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. Let's look at another one. Go to the Songs of Solomon. He said, my skin is black. Now go to Songs of Solomon. Look at another verse here. We're just going to tackle the color here. The title of this lesson, if I failed to mention it in the beginning, is The Color and the Curse. The Color and the Curse. So let's go to the Songs of Solomon. And we'll pick it up in verse 1. Chapter 1, verse 5. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5.
Chapter 1, verse 5?
Chapter 1, verse 5. The Song of Solomon.
I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon.
Okay, how about verse 6?
Look upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but my own vineyard have I not kept.
That's good. Now, 2 times the person in that book said, I am black but comely. Look not upon me because I am black. So, remember, in some versions, there are some corrupt versions out there that will omit the word black. It wouldn't be in there. But you have to ask yourself, why would they take that out? So, go with me to Jeremiah. We're going to look at a few more things. We're going to go to Jeremiah 8. Jeremiah 8. You have to consider. At least consider, have I gotten the whole story? Have they told me everything? Jeremiah 8, and we'll read one verse here, then we'll go to Jeremiah 14. One verse here. Jeremiah 8, verse 21. Jeremiah 8, verse 21. When you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
For the hurt of the daughter of my people am I hurt. I am black. Astonishment hath taken hold on me.
Now, we saw these pictures, brothers and sisters. We saw the pictures up there. So it makes sense that they would say things like this. It would make sense that they say, hey, I am black. Or my skin is black upon me. It makes complete sense. It wouldn't make sense for those who we commonly refer to as Jews. When they say something like that, I am black but comely, or I am black and astonishment hath taken me. It wouldn't make much sense at this time. But it makes sense in this sense when we know, the Hebrews, they were, in fact, dark skinned. So let's look at Jeremiah 14. Same book, just go up a few chapters. We just read Jeremiah 8 and 21. Now let's go to Jeremiah 14, and we'll read one verse one more time. Jeremiah 14 and verse 2.
Judah mourn, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up.
And the cry of Jerusalem has gone up. So he said they are black unto the ground. Over and over again, they are describing who they are, what they look like. In fact, when you consider other races, if a black person, if they get sick or have a certain disease, they get darker and darker and darker. Can't say that of other races. Can't say it is not true of other races. Let's go to Lamentations Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet, and he has a book called Lamentations. So let's go there, and we'll go to chapter 4 in the book of Lamentations. We will look at these things here. Lamentations, chapter 4, we'll read one verse. Verse 8. Here is a description. Verse 8. Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 8. When you get there, go ahead.
Their visage is blacker than a coal.
Blacker than a coal. Who else can you say this about? Go ahead.
They are not known in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Their skin cleaveth to their bones.
Okay.
It is withered. It is become like a stick.
Right. So there's starvation, there's famine. They were talking about. Jeremiah's talking about the famine and things. They're starving. They're getting very, very skinny. That's where they're skin into their bones. They're becoming skin and bones, but they're getting darker and darker as they get sick and die. That's what the famine is. We're still in Lamentations. We'll read one more, chapter 5, Chapter 5, verse 10. One more, and then we're going to go to Numbers. Lamentations. Verse 10. It'll be Lamentations 5, verse 10.
Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine.
Because of the terrible famine. And it says it plainly. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. Very, very plain in that text. Now join me over in Numbers 12. Numbers 12, we're going to look at something. Look at something that happened to Miriam. Numbers 12. Among the first 5 books, so it's early on. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Numbers 12. Numbers 12. Let's get her that black Bible right there. Numbers 12. Okay. Numbers 12. We're going to look at something now. In this particular passage in Numbers 12, this is when Aaron and his wife rose up against Moses, and I guess they didn't like what Moses was doing, and the Lord did not take kindly to that. So let's go Numbers 12 and verse 5. Let's pick it up at verse 5. When you get there, brother, let the Bible speak.
And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle. And they called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth.
So the Lord called them forth, verse 6.
And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream.
Go ahead.
My servant Moses is not so.
Now I want you to understand something here. Now the Lord said, if there be a prophet, you have a prophet among you, if he's a real prophet, I will reveal myself. Basically, he says, I will make myself known unto him in a vision, or I will speak to him in a dream. That's how he'll speak to this other prophet, if there be one. This is what he's asking Miriam and Aaron. However, verse 7, he says something different about Moses. Go ahead, verse 7.
My servant Moses is not so.
Yeah, he's not going to do it like that. He's not going to talk to Moses in a dream or a vision. He's going to talk to Moses face to face. Go ahead.
Who is faithful in all my house.
Go ahead.
With him I will speak mouth to mouth.
I will speak mouth to mouth. He will speak directly to Moses, like I'm talking to you or I'm talking to someone in this room. That's how the Lord will speak to Moses. He said so himself. Go ahead.
Even apparently and not in the dark speeches.
Yep.
And the similitude of the Lord shall he behold.
Not in clouds and smoke and like a little phantom or a ghost. No, I will speak to Moses face to face and apparently. That's what the word says here. Not in dark speeches, and the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. He will look upon me. Moses. Go ahead, wherefore?
Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant?
So he basically asked him a question. Why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? This is the only guy I will speak to face, and you're going to rise up against him? The Lord had a problem with that because Moses was the intercessor. He has a great problem with that. Verse 9. Let's see what happened.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them.
Yeah, he
departed.
Verse 10.
And the cloud departed from off of the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow.
Leprous, white as snow. Now this is a dark-skinned Hebrew woman, and she became white as snow. And what has happened?
And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous.
Let's look at this real quick. Hit kill the lights. This is similar to what happened to Miriam. And they have this, and it still happens to some people in Africa, but it happens today. As you can see, this is a current picture. But this is similar to what had happened. Now, a lot of people, they will mistake and they'll say, well, like for instance, the Mormons, they will say that being black is a curse. They'll say being black, well, that's the curse. Black people are cursed and God forsake them and things like that. Actually, when God sent a curse, they were already black and he turned them white, leprous, white as snow. This is an example of what happened to Miriam. Now, let's keep moving, and we're going to look at what happened to us. Let's go to the book of Acts. Now, remember we're talking about Egyptians. The book of Acts, let's go to Acts 21. Go ahead and bring the lights back up. Acts 21. New Testament, Acts 21. Now remember, we saw pictures of Egyptians. We saw pictures of Hebrews. Now we're going to go to the New Testament and take a look at something. Acts 21. Let's take a real quick peek. Acts 21. And when we get there, we will pick it up at verse 37. Acts 21, verse 37. And let's pick it up at verse 37. When we get there, brother, go ahead and read.
And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain,
Okay.
May I speak unto thee?
Okay.
Who said, Canst thou speak Greek?
And they asked him, hey, can you speak Greek? What else they asked him? 38.
Are not thou that Egyptians, which before these days madest an uproar?
You made an uproar. So the captain, the chief captain said, aren't you the Egyptian, which before these days made an uproar? And what else?
And led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers.
And what did Paul say in 39?
But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus.
I'm a Jew of Tarsus,
a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city.
Okay.
And I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people.
Okay, and then he went ahead and he spoke to the people. And if you read verse 40, and in fact I'll do that. And when he had given him silence, Paul stood on the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And when there was a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue. He spoke to them in the Hebrew tongue. He knows Greek, he knew Hebrew. This is Paul. Okay, let's go back to the Old Testament over in Amos. Now remember, I want you to understand, he said, aren't thou that Egyptian? Notice they mistake Paul for an Egyptian. We just saw the Egyptians are very dark-skinned people. So therefore, Paul was a very dark-skinned person. And we looked at the table of nations. We saw that Egypt is, in fact, on the continent of Africa. And actually, in my own life, I actually had a family member, I won't say who it is, but they did not know that the country of Egypt was on the continent of Africa. Was not aware, was completely oblivious of that, which is astonishing, but it happens. Amos 3. Let's go to Amos 3. Amos 3, and when you get there, we will pick it up at verse 1. Amos 3, we'll pick it up at verse 1. And when you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying,
Go ahead.
You only have I known.
What did he say now? He said, you only have I known. The children of Israel are the only ones have he known. I spoke to you. He's dealing with Israel. Go ahead, finish that.
Of all the families of the earth.
Yep.
Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities.
I will punish you for all your iniquities. So because you're wondering, you're saying, well, hey, wait a minute. If he chose us, if he chose Israel and everything, then why? Why? What's going on? Because you only have I known. Have I revealed this word? Have I revealed myself to you? Have I revealed my law to you? Have I revealed this word to you? The entire Bible is written to and by Hebrews. Now, don't get me wrong, it is for the entire world. But he said, you only have I known. I'm dealing with you first. Now remember, this is a 4-part series, so I don't want you to look at one part or one lesson and miss the entire scope of this entire lesson here. But he said, you only have I known. Let's go on over to Daniel 9. So we're going to look at some of these things. We're going to look at what the real curses are. Okay? It's not being dark skinned. That's not the curse, but I will show you what the real curse is in just a second. Now, Daniel 9, go to Daniel 9 and 4, and let's take a look at this. Daniel 9. Because I find that Daniel said something really interesting when you get to that particular part. He's found something interesting because a lot of people, they do away with Israel and think they're all gone. They think, oh, the Old Testament doesn't matter and things of that nature. But we'll see that it's not true. That is not true. So, let's go to Daniel 9 and verse 4. And when you get there, brother, go ahead and read.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God.
This is Daniel, go ahead.
And made my confession and said,
Okay, what did he say?
O Lord, the great and dreadful God,
Okay.
keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him,
Mm-hmm.
and to them that keepeth his commandments.
Okay, this is whom he keeps his covenant with. Go ahead.
We have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled.
Okay, Daniel said we as a people, we have sinned. Remember, Daniel is in captivity. He's in the Babylonian captivity. And he's praying to his Lord. And what he said in verse 5, say it again.
We have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled.
Okay.
Even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgment.
That's how they rebelled. They departed from his precepts and from his judgments. Okay, let's skip down to verse 9, brother. Go ahead.
To the Lord our God belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him.
He's pleading with the Lord. He's pleading with the Lord. He's saying, Lord, you have the mercies and forgiveness, even though we have rebelled against you. Verse 10.
Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our God to walk in his laws.
To walk in his laws. So that's one. Remember, the covenant was given in Exodus. And he also gave other covenants, other laws, statutes, and commandments. So we walked away from his laws, which what? Go ahead.
Which he set before us by his servants and the prophets.
Which he set before us. Because he told even Moses in the beginning, thou shalt not, or do this, or don't do that. Over and over and over. Okay? So he told it, he revealed it to the prophets. And other places too, because we're in Daniel, but he revealed it to Jeremiah and all his prophets. Go ahead. Verse 11.
Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law.
All Israel has transgressed thy law. Go ahead.
Even by departing, that they may not obey by thy voice.
They do not want to do it. But go ahead, what he said.
Therefore the curse is poured upon us.
Hold that right there. Now, this is very, very important. Vital important for you to understand anything in this lesson. It is vital that you get this. Therefore the curse is poured upon us. Is present tense. Even in his time and even unto this day, it is poured upon us, and you will see why. Go ahead.
And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
Because we have sinned against thee. We're going to finish up verse 12. Go ahead.
And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done, as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
Has been done upon Jerusalem. This is what we're talking about. Now, he said the curses have befallen upon us. And you say, well, Robert, you did mention curses and stuff, but what curses? Go with me to Deuteronomy 28, and we will address the curses. We will address the curses. Deuteronomy 28. Let's address this. Deuteronomy 28. And the Lord, he said a few things. He talked about blessings and curses. He talked about both. And we like to read the blessings. We like to go there, which is fine. But we have to understand there are also curses. And this is how we identify Israel. Through these curses. Because Daniel said these curses have fallen upon us. And we're going to take a look at that. Now, these curses have fallen upon us. Let's go to 15. We talked about the blessings first, but let's talk about these curses though. The blessings, of course, was he said these blessings will overtake you. You will be the head, not the tail. You'll have the land. You'll have prosperity, all that type of thing. Blessed when you go in, blessed when you come out, those type of things. All the blessings. The curses are the reverse. Let's look at that. Verse 15. Go ahead.
The curses of disobedience. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto my voice, the Lord thy God.
If you don't listen to me, to do what?
To observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day.
Okay, go ahead.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
And and Daniel said that they have fallen upon us. Remember, we have to go back to Deuteronomy, but we read it in Daniel where he said these curses have fallen upon us because we didn't listen. Go ahead.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
No matter where you go, you'll be cursed. In the city or in the field. Okay, drop down to verse 25.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies.
You'll be smitten, you'll be defeated, you'll be beaten up, you'll be driven into slavery. You'll see, we'll get to that. Go ahead.
Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them.
You will be scattered. You will scatter. Go ahead.
And shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
That's clue number 1. Israel will be among all kingdoms of the earth. They will be all over the place. You will see Israel all over the place. Okay? That's what it says right here. All right, let's go. No, keep going. 26.
And thy carcass shall be meat unto the fowls of the air.
Yep.
And unto the beasts of the earth. And no man shall fray them away.
That's right. You'll be eaten. You will die. These are the things that will happen if you or you and I, we disobey. Well, they did at the time. They disobeyed God. They walked away from his law, statutes, and commandments. Now, what's fair about it is that 1, he said, you only have I known. And 2, he gave you the warning before, ahead of time. If you do all that I command you, I will bless you. If you do not, these curses will befall you. Let's look at that. Go ahead, verse 27. Verse 27, go ahead.
The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods with a scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed.
Yeah, it's talking about a pestilence. Certain diseases that you will not. These are generational curses. Generational curses. Go ahead.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of the heart.
Yeah, we don't even know why some of these afflictions. We cry out and we're like, why is this happening to me? Things like that. Astonishment. You don't even know why you're going through this today. Now, many of them they knew because they were right there. It was so close to it. Okay, but over time, this is before they were scattered, but these things still happen to them. But these are the things that the Lord had declared. 29.
And thou shalt grope at noondays, as the blind gropeth in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways.
Now, you ever gone to some of the poor neighborhoods? You ever gone to some of the black neighborhoods or in the Latino, and they're just hanging out on the street, hanging out on the rooftop, hanging out on the porch, not really doing anything. They're groping away at noonday. As the blind gropeth in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in your ways. They're just not doing anything. Now, I'm not saying that a person, who we call an African American, which is inappropriate, but that we call a black person or Latino, that none of them are successful. Yeah, individually, there can be some successful. There are successful ones. There are some who get very, very rich. Some get very, very famous. But as a people, no. As a people, no. Are the what we call the American Negro or the black person, are they running the world? No. Or the Latino, are they running the world? Meaning in the highest positions of power? No. It is ran by the Gentiles right now. Okay? But the Lord said it would be that. Verse, let's see, where are we?
The middle of 29.
Middle of 29. Go ahead, brother.
And thou shalt be only oppressed, and thou shalt be only be oppressed, and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
No man shall save thee. No one will save you. Go ahead, 30.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Oh, that happened in slavery. That's happened when other countries have conquered you. They will ravage your wife. Go ahead.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
All the slaves, they built houses for the slave masters. Go ahead.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard,
Down the
and thou
field.
shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Yeah, they're not yours. So they've done that. They've done that, but we're not done. We're not done. Verse 31.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof.
Okay.
Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face.
Everything you possess will be taken away from you. Everything you possess. You'll have an ox, and it shall be slain before thy eyes, and you shall not eat. So, we can eat ox. You will have an ox. It's yours. You raised it. It's nice, big, healthy. Someone will come and take it from you. Everything will be taken from you. Go ahead.
And shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies.
They're coming in. They're taking it. Go ahead.
And thou shalt have none to rescue them.
None to rescue. 32.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Yep.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day long.
Yeah, they say, when they're snatching your kids away from you, back in slavery times, or when your country is being taken over, and they're taking your little kids, and that longing, oh my baby, don't take my baby, that kind of thing. This is what they're talking about. Your children will be taken from you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You won't have any power in your hand to do anything about it. And the eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in your hand. I'm sorry, I read ahead. But yeah, there should be no might in your hand. 33.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up.
Okay.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away.
Always. Have you ever wondered? You ever grew up and you're like, why does it seem like we're on the bottom of society? Why does it seem that way? It's in the curse. You'll be oppressed always. Now, are we in physical shackles right now? No. But you are oppressed always. Now, on a side note, let me just say, this lesson is just about education. This is not about hating another race or anything like that. This is understanding who you are and why you are in the condition that you are in. You have no room to hate anyone. So you can't blame it on, because there's a lot of Hebrew groups out there and they start blaming it. Oh, white man this, white man that. Stop it. As you can see, we failed. We dropped the ball. We did not listen to the Lord's statutes and commandments, and He told you it would happen if you did not. And we'll have to be in this condition until the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Okay, go ahead, we finish up 33? No, we said that. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Go to 41. Drop down to verse 41.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters.
Okay.
But thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
They shall go into captivity. So even captivity, slavery. So even your sons and your daughters will go into captivity. Let's go to 45. Let's look at something else. Go ahead.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee.
He said all these curses shall come upon thee. Go ahead and what?
And shall pursue thee.
No matter where you go, these curses will be upon you.
And overtake thee.
Go ahead.
Till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep His commandments and His statutes, which He commanded thee.
He told you why. Why did these curses fall upon thee? He just told you why. He just said it. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep His commandments and His statutes, which He commanded thee. Now, we're going to pause there, and the next tape will be part 2 of this part 2 of Section 1 of the curses, the color and the curse. So join us immediately after this, and we will finish up the color and the curse. Until next time, this is Robert, the founder of Israel.